Hi, I'm Rachel, and I'm going to share my natural, drug-free labor story. I feel weird about doing this. I've never made a YouTube video before, and I just feel like I watched a lot of YouTube videos and everything, and I felt like they left a lot of stuff out when it came to labor. I wanted an epidural-free birth for a lot of reasons. One being I'm really afraid of needles, and two, I heard that if you don't get an epidural, sometimes the recovery is a lot easier. I liked the idea of being able to labor naturally and labor free, like walk around, get in a tub, or whatever. So I did have a midwife at a hospital. A lot of people ask me, oh, you have a midwife, are you having the baby at home? No, but to each their own. These are just like my opinions, so I feel kind of vulnerable putting this out there because obviously it's a lot of TMI, and also you subject yourself to judgment and people telling you, negative comments, I guess. So again, this is just kind of my take on it. I feel lucky I went into labor, on my own. I wasn't induced or anything. I feel like I had a birth plan, but was very open to anything could happen. I could have to have a C-section, or, if I had to be induced, maybe I would just want the epidural right away. So, anyway, I was due on February 27th, and that was a Tuesday, and the Friday before is when I had my daughter. We didn't know what we were having. So I had worked up until my due date, or up until the day I had her, and I did the whole labor tea, the red raspberry leaf tea to help, labor be induced and tone your uterus and everything. And this is all stuff I read in this book. It was called Mama Natural, and I feel like it was like my pregnancy Bible. I really, really enjoyed it, and I feel like it answered a lot of questions along the way. I did do a birth class. We did not have a doula. So, yeah, drank the tea the last 2 days, like Wednesday, Thursday, and I had worked 2 long days, like 11, 12 hours on my feet both of those days. I'm a hairstylist, and I had read if you go into labor when you're most relaxed usually. And so that night I knew I had Friday off, and Saturday I just had a few clients, so I was kind of done at that point. You know how you are at 39 plus 3. So I got home from work, and I just had made sure everything was clean, and I sat on an exercise ball. I did my work order, and I was just like, all right, baby, you can come anytime now. So I went to sleep, and probably like 10 o'clock, and then at 2:30 in the morning just started getting a little bit of contractions. And to me, they just felt like period cramps in the front and the back. So I was getting back labor. I kind of expected that, because I had read if you normally get back cramps during a period, you would probably get back labor, which I heard was one of the things you really don't want. And I agree now. So yeah, they started. So I had read just, try to sleep through them. So, I would go back to sleep, and they'd wake me up maybe every half hour or so. And then, I was pretty hungry, so I went and had a bowl of cereal in the middle of the night. Went back to sleep, and then around 7 a.m., they were kind of picking up intensity. I downloaded a contractions app, just some random free one on my phone, and just started pressing the timer, all right, started, ended. And so the whole time that was going on, I was just really trying to focus on breathing through them and counting. So I would just 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3, and that really seemed to help. They were 30 to 45 seconds, 10 to 15 minutes apart at this point. So 7 a.m., get out of bed, also have my bloody show, which, whatever, you'll read about that. And then I just was kind of, getting them and going and leaning on an exercise ball on my chest and my knees on the ground, and that felt pretty good for my lower back. And I busted out my Mama Natural book and would just look at ideas in case like labor is getting more intense or whatever, and called my girlfriend. I'm like, hey, I think I'm in labor, but I don't know. I don't want to feel stupid. I don't want to like think it's labor if it's not. And she's like, yeah, I think it's probably labor. And I was like, well, maybe I should wake my husband up. And so I was afraid he was gonna like freak out because he kind of gets like a little anxious about stuff, and I thought I'd jump out of bed like, let's go to the hospital now. So I'm like, hey, and I'll wake him up. I think I'm in labor. He just looked at me. Okay, went back to sleep. So he didn't overreact. You know, a little bit later he gets up like 9 or so, and he makes himself a continental breakfast and, you know, starting his day off right, I guess. And it was funny because he doesn't normally do that. I'm like, why is he making a big breakfast? What about me? So at this point, I'm getting contractions every 10, 12 minutes apart, and they're pretty intense. And after every contraction, I would have diarrhea. So I'd pretty much like be in the living room on the ball, be like yelling at him, like, come push on my back. So every time I got one, he would just put both of his palms in my lower back, pressing down while I leaned on the exercise ball like this. And then as soon as it was done, you know, less than a minute, I would get up and feel the urge to poop. So I'd run and go to the bathroom, come back. So that was really uncomfortable. I ended up putting on like a Pandora station and just started trying to like dance the baby down, like they say. I felt ridiculous because, again, you know, a minute for the contraction, a couple minutes for the bathroom, and then standing there, and then boom, another contraction. So by 11, they were like 5 minutes apart, but then I'd have one random one that was like 7 or 10 minutes apart. So I called the doctor's office, and they were like, no, they need to be 5 minutes apart for an hour. Okay. So I just, you know, kept laboring at home. I knew I had an appointment that day at 2:15. So I was like, if I can just make it to my appointment with my midwife, we'll see what happens, you know. So that was kind of my saving grace, I think. I kept thinking, like, if I could, all along I thought, I need to stay at home as long as possible in labor because I don't want to get sent home. Because our hospital, the closest hospital for us, was 45 minutes away. So we pack our bags. I knew it was it. Again, every 5 minutes, and then now and then a little bit longer. The contractions were coming on, so we drove to the doctor's office, and the midwife, I'm having contractions in the waiting room. I'm having contractions when they're trying to take my blood pressure. They're like, your blood pressure is kind of high. I'm like, you think? I'm having a contraction right now. So go back, sit down. She's like, all right, I'm going to check you. And I was getting another contraction. And she's like, I'll give you a second. So then she checks me, and she's like, oh, you need to go home. Just kidding. You're 7 centimeters. You need to go to the hospital. I was freaking out. Like, it takes a lot for me to react, but I was like, yay! I was so excited. It really was just like, thank God, because on the way there, I told my husband, if I'm like 3, I'm going to die. And he's like, no, I bet you're farther, blah, blah, blah. And so he was right. So thank goodness. And it was funny because after the fact at my checkup, the midwife was like, you know what? I knew you were kind of far in labor because your knuckles were white and you're just... And that's what I kept doing the whole time. Like, every time a contraction would come, just long, slow, deep breaths. I kept channeling this chick I saw on the natural birth support group, like, that had her baby in a pool at home and just was so calm the entire time. Just, and she just breathed her baby out, and then she's like, can you turn off the camera? Like, so relaxed, like, I want to be you. So I just kept thinking about her. And so we drove over to the hospital, and I had to wait in the waiting area for like 15 minutes or so. And then they finally get us, or I'm waiting at the reception then, like at all the little questions. And my midwife, and a different midwife, is standing there, and a nurse like just waiting to take me. So she finally they get to take me, and they're like, all right, you know, do you want this? Do you want that? Do you want, you know, do you want an IV? And I was like, well, I thought I had to. And they're like, nope, you don't have to. That, you know, you're not at risk for anything. So, you know, you can say no, but we do recommend it. And I was like, oh, well, no. Because I really don't like needles. So they're like, okay, well, we're going to let you labor. You know, we'll check you. Oh, yeah, you're about, you know, 7 or so centimeters now. So, yeah, you know, do your thing. And I was like, all right, I need an exercise ball. And, oh, because I didn't get the room with the tub like I really wanted. So that was a bummer. So, yeah, we got in and done with the questions by like 4 o'clock. And yeah, she brought in the exercise ball, and I sat on it, and then there was like all this blood on it. I'm thinking, why is there blood? But I guess from checking you. By the way, when they check you, I thought, oh, they just see, oh, wow, you're 2 centimeters, 3, 4, 5, whatever. No, it's like, oh, here's my hand. Okay. Oh, you're this many centimeters. So it's the whole hand. It's not just, their little fingers. So be prepared. So yeah, there was some blood, so I was kind of surprised by oh, there's blood just coming out, okay. And then I went in the shower, because I didn't get the tub, and I'd sit on the exercise ball, and I took the shower head, and I was just blasting the hot water on my front where I was getting really bad cramps or contractions, and my husband, he just came up behind and would just press on my back against the ball. And then, you have to make sure you're moving the ball out of the way so it can drain, because the lady that did our birth class was like, yeah, luckily I got in the shower, I was able to use the exercise ball, but she flooded the room. So luckily she prepared me for that, and I didn't flood the room. So yeah, at this point, it's really intense. It's very painful. Nonstop, it seems, contractions, and yeah, I was like, all right, I got to get out of the shower. They came back in, and they see like I'm in a lot of pain, so they're like, we're gonna check you again. And so I'm trying to make my way over, but it's just like a lot of just excruciating pain. So I make it by the bed, and then I get down on my knees again on the floor there, which was pretty, gross, a hospital room floor. And I just have my arms up on that ball, and my husband's pressing on my lower back. And that was all I was pretty much doing, is I was just like up, down, left, right, like exactly where to push. And, and I'm having to kind of pull up my belly at this point, because it is just painful. So the midwife comes around, shoves her hand in there trying to check me again. The nurse, she's trying to put a monitor to do intermittent monitoring, see how the baby's doing. And I'm thinking, why is my midwife here? Like, I wasn't processing that I was actually like pretty far into labor. So she's like, yeah, I think you made some progress. So can you get on the bed? And I'm thinking, probably not. So I get on the bed, and she checks me again. She's like, oh yeah, 9 or whatever. So again, just like, why is she here? So at this point, she tells me, why don't you turn around on the bed, like face the wall? So the bed was kind of propped up, so I'm kind of, up and to the, my butt in her face, and I'm just in a sports bra, and which is pretty funny. I thought, oh, I think I'll bring a robe. I bought a, new pretty like maternity robe for the birth, and I bought these socks that say ready, set, push, and the music, the affirmations, everything. But I think because I was so far dilated when I showed up, like, there just really wasn't any time for that. Like, I wasn't induced or anything, so it went a lot faster than anticipated. So, I'm facing the wall. My husband's face is right next to mine. I'm just dying of hot flat, like, I'm hot, I'm sweat, like steam, I could just feel radiating off of me. The pain was really intense. Again, pulling up on the belly, just excruciating pain. And luckily the nurse is grabbing some cool rags. My husband's putting them on my forehead, and then all while still pressing on my back. And the midwife says to me, why don't you give me a little push? And I go, I can't. And she says, oh, come on, yeah, you can. Well, at this point, my body takes over. Like they say, like fetal ejection reflex or something. Like, my body literally took over. And I just feel this like rumble, like, oh my God. And I'm like, I'm gonna poop. And she's like, no, you're not. And I'm like, yes, I am. It's right there. It's in my butthole. And I'm thinking, it feels like a bowling ball. And she's like, no, that's the baby. Okay, so why don't you give me a little push? And then I was like, yeah, those are the sounds that came out of me. And it was pretty embarrassing, because I'm thinking this sounds ridiculous and I don't even know what that was, but it's okay. And my husband right away is just like, and I'm like, just, and yeah, I asked him afterwards, I'm like, so I could not do that job. I would be like laughing at people in pain, because I can't handle people in pain. And he was like, oh, at one point they did laugh, like behind your back. They would look at each other. They were like, and I'm like, yeah, I would too. So anyway, so that happens, and I didn't poop. And It happens a couple times, making those horrific noises. And then she goes, why don't you give me a little shake? And I was like, or a little, shake your hips a little. And I'm thinking, I can't move a muscle. And then I do this really awkward, like shake. It was not how anyone normal would shake their hips. And she was like, yeah, okay, like, yeah, try again. So at this point, she asks me to turn around, and she says, Rachel, I think we should break your water. Is that okay? And I look at her, I'm like, you're the professional. I don't care. Like, do whatever you need to do. So she's like, all right, I'm going to break your water. And that was weird because it was just all this warm water just flying out. And another thing I was surprised about when I turned around is all the blood, like on my leg, on my foot. Obviously, I should have expected blood. I should have, like, you know, I watched the YouTube videos. I just feel like they left a lot of that stuff out. Like, where was all the blood? Did they edit that? Because there was blood. And so I'm kind of sitting awkward, like just to the side. And so she's like, well, like, do you want to turn around again? I did. No, I don't. And so my nurse right here on this side, she is 39 weeks pregnant as well. And my midwife is so cute. She's married, I'm pretty sure. And, you know, I don't think she has any kids. And she's like real little. And she's sitting on the bed. Like, so she is just like, you know, sitting, you know, between my legs. And she's like, okay, well, says to the nurse, can you put her leg in a stirrup because you can't hold her leg. And I'm thinking, well, if she can't do her job, then maybe you need someone to hold my leg. I'll go get my mom or something. But, you know, I just like was just like, whatever. Okay, my foot's in the stirrup. And then the midwife picks up my foot. And again, I'm a hairstylist. I stand all day long, and my feet aren't soft. So she's like, okay, Rachel, I'm gonna hold your foot. And she talks like really like soft. And obviously I don't. And she's like, now push against me. And I'm thinking, seriously? Like, I'm going to throw you through that wall if I have to push against you. Like, have you seen me? I'm very pregnant. I'm not little. So, yeah, I was like, oh, okay. Like, oh, okay. She's like, all right, why don't you give me a good push? I want you to breathe. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, she's like, not like that. And then she says, like, in your lungs. It's just a big, deep breath in your lungs. And my husband is like, oh, she has asthma. I'm like, no. So I'm like, and she's like, no, not like that. And so then she's just basically like, put your chin down, take a big breath, and bear down like you're taking a big poop. So that worked. I wasn't like processing that. I don't know. I wish I would have like practiced like how to push, I guess. But anyway, that made it a lot better. That actually, you know, made some progression. And also, oh, something I forgot. Like when I was turned around pushing, or not pushing, getting contractions, I started just like being like, and she's like, no, slow. So like, thank goodness she was there. And like, obviously that's what a doula would do. And that would be really beneficial because I felt like totally out of control with some of those contractions. And they were just so intense, so like painful. And again, needing my back press on and everything. So when she would be like, slow your breathing, and like that obviously helped to slow down. So same with like when she was guiding me on how to push right. And so when I just like put my chin, I was like, you know, like obviously I help. And then some weird sounds came out then too, just kind of like some and like some yeah, just some weird ones. So they would just kind of crack a smile. So, you know, whatever. I've said a lot. So yes, pushed. As I'm pushing, she's like, oh my gosh, I see hair. And I saw its head in like past tense. So another thing I learned is I thought a baby, even though I watched a lot of videos, I thought it was just like, oh, once the head's here, then it's like, oh, there we go, you know? No, it's kind of like, oh, head, oh, so she's like, I see them. I'm like, okay. And she's like, give me a push. So I didn't realize another thing. You have to push through the contractions. Like, while you have the contraction is when they want you to push. So she would be like, don't waste it. Come on, give me one more push. I'm thinking, I can't. It freaking hurts. And at one point I yelled out, it's so dry. And she's like, it's not dry. And I know it wasn't dry because there was all that fluid and they put oil and it still felt really dry. And everyone told me once you get to 10 and you push, it's nothing. Like, they lied. It is something. It hurts like hell. It burns, a ring of fire. All that is totally true. And it freaking hurt. So, another thing, I think I was actually ready to push a little sooner. My midwife ended up saying, you know, Rachel, she has her hand in there as I've like pushed and stuff. And she's like, I'm going to hold this little lip of your cervix back and I'm just going to have you push. I'm like, with your hand in there? And she's like, yeah, no. So then I go, that's not a lip of my cervix. That's part of my vagina. So, another TMI for all of you people watching. I hope people I know really aren't watching this. It's called like a separated hymen or something like that. So there's just like this extra little piece of tissue, and I had asked if that would be an issue at my appointments, and they said no. And they said that I don't know what you're talking about. So apparently it can like be noticed or not be noticed, whatever. So she thought that that was part of my cervix still and that I wasn't all the way dilated. So she's like, oh. So at my follow-up she did say like, oh, I probably should have had you like push sooner. Well, no wonder I was in so much pain, and yeah, it really sucked having someone's hand up there like hold like, here, come on, push the head out. So anyway, finally get the head out. Oh, and I say finally, but I guess I pushed for 20 minutes, but it felt like 500 years. And the head comes out and she's like, come on, Rachel, push. And I'm thinking, what? I thought at this point the shoulders fly out and the baby flops out. No. So I had to push again, and that hurt like hell too. And then it was like, blah, 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 and the baby just came out. So as she's lifting up, I see her little peepee, and I'm like, it's a girl. And I look at my husband, and he like can't see, and the midwife's like, I don't know. Yep, it's a girl. Tossed her on me. So yay, the baby's out. And everyone says, oh, you're just so consumed in love, and you're just looking at your precious little baby's face. And I look, I'm like, oh, okay, now what are you doing down there? And at this point, I just want to know what they're doing. So I'm like, what now? And she's like looking at me kind of like, why don't you just look at your baby? And I'm like, so did I tear? Did I rip? How many stitches? Up or down? To the right? To the left? What are we doing? She's like, yep, just a little scratch, first degree tear, not bad at all. You are amazing, an inspiration to birth, which was a really nice compliment, but I thought she just said that to everyone, but she said she doesn't. So anyway, she, you know, gets out her little, she's like, I'm going to give you a little shot, just sew you up a little bit, a couple stitches. And so she does a little shot down there. I didn't feel the shot at all, which is surprising, but I did feel like the string as she was pulling. So I was like, I feel a string. So she gave me one more little shot and, you know, finished that up and then delivered the placenta. That was nothing, just one little push. And she wanted to show it to me. It's like as big as my head. And then I hemorrhaged. So that was a little bit like worrisome because I knew my mom did, and they said it's not hereditary. So I'm not sure, but basically hemorrhage just like losing a lot of blood, bleeding a lot. So they had given me a shot right away of Pitocin, like because I didn't have an IV. So they said, we're gonna have to get you an IV and fast. So they put it right here, which meant I could not bend my arm at all while holding my daughter or feeding her or anything else. So that was kind of annoying, but that was like, I think 10 hours or 6-7 hours that had to be in. And so I did get that. So that was one of my fears about getting an epidural, was again afraid of needles, afraid of getting an IV. So I'm kind of glad that happened because now I'm not as afraid. And then as they're grinding their fist into my uterus, like to push out any, you know, extra blood or placenta, and now because I'm hemorrhaging, really trying to make sure my uterus is contracting, they say, Rachel, we're gonna have to put a catheter in just one time just to like release your bladder. And I'm thinking, I can get up, I can go to the bathroom. And she's like, no, you can't get up right now. So I'm just gonna do this real quick. Okay, this is what it looks like. So I had that too. And that was another fear about getting an epidural. But luckily that was not as bad as I thought. It was one time, so I didn't get like a UTI or yeast infection or, you know, whatever things you can get from that. So again, kind of good to like, you know, experience that and not be so afraid. So from there, yeah, just kind of grinding their fist in now and then to, you know, make sure I have blood flying out. So that was good. And then it did stop. And, and then I, you know, started shaking, convulsing pretty bad. So that was weird. I did not read about that, did not hear about that. And basically my baby is just laying on me and my husband's right here and I am just really dramatic, but it was. And I remember thinking like, I feel fine, but I'm just shaking. So apparently the midwife just said that is an adrenaline rush after having the baby. Some people experience it before they give birth, some people during, you know, all that. So that is the gist of it. Ended up being fine. Recovery really great, actually. I felt like nurses there were pretty surprised by my level of pain. They'd say, oh, what level of pain are you in? And I'd be like, 1, just kind of swollen down there, a little uncomfortable. But not bad at all. I had days where it felt a little more uncomfortable, but for the most part, pretty good. So I would just recommend being in the natural birth support group for any questions, ideas. Like, that was really helpful to me. And breathing, believing in yourself, staying at home as long as possible, because I guess it can just be really like defeating mentally if you show up to the hospital and they're like, you're 3, and you're thinking, well, I'm already in so much pain, how am I going to make it to 10? Or, you know, if you're induced, like, I have no advice for that. I feel like that would be really hard to be at the hospital starting at 0 and knowing exactly where you are. So even if it's just not having them check you, maybe that would be really helpful. But this is just my experience. I thought it was way different than I expected. And I just remember afterwards, you know, my family coming in, being so excited. Everyone's like, oh, the baby, and like wanting to see her and look at her. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what just happened? Like, oh my God. That's all I could think. And I just sat there just like that feeling of pushing and burning, and it was so intense. But like, I didn't cry, and like, I'm a crybaby, and I did it, and it was really amazing. I think anyone who goes through like birth, labor is amazing. Like, there's no way around it. Like, honestly, sometimes most of the stories I hear like with an epidural are even more traumatic. Like, so those women are like insanely badass for even like having to deal with like all they have to deal with too. So I just think no matter what, women are really amazing, and our bodies are freaking phenomenal. So that was just my story. I hope if there's anything in it that anyone, if you can just take one thing from it that can help you or make you like a little more prepared for all the blood or like anything, that'd be great. So yeah, that's it. All right, bye.